Now let us talk about hydropower plants. Hydropower plants are considered as renewable sources. Why? Because they are unlimited. Now, what it is? Hydropower plants convert the potential energy of falling water into electricity. Remember this, hydropower plants convert the potential energy of falling water into electricity. This is a traditional source of energy because people have been using this source of energy for generation of electricity. In earlier times, they were using waterfalls, right? So there are very few waterfalls right now which could be used as a source of potential energy. Hydropower plants are associated with dams. As there are very limited waterfalls, it cannot meet the need of population. That is why the dams are made. Before we talk about these dams, let us talk about hydropower plants. First of all, as I said you that hydropower plants convert potential energy of falling water into electricity. Now, in standard 9, we have already learned about potential energy and kinetic energy. When any object can have potential energy, recall that the potential energy is associated with the place, the position of an object, right? So, here when we talk about potential energy, which means it will be stationary, right? It will be at rest. When we are talking about potential energy of water, do you think how is it possible? We know that water is flowing, right? Then flowing water can have potential energy? No, because potential energy is only associated with the object which is at rest. So, here when we talk about potential energy of water, which means the water is stored somewhere, then that stored water will have potential energy. Where it is stored? At height, right? When it is stored at some height, it will have potential energy. Now what happens if we allow this water to flow? That means from the height it was stationary, right? At height it was stationary, at rest. When we allow this water to flow, what will happen? The potential energy will be converted into kinetic energy, right? We have learned that energy can be converted from one form to another form. So when we allow this water to flow, it will flow. And what is kinetic energy? The energy which is related to the motion of an object. This means when water is flowing, the potential energy will be converted into kinetic energy as the water is flowing. So from rest, it is coming in motion. It is flowing, so it will have a kinetic energy. Now, what happens? First, this potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. And when this kinetic energy is converted into electricity, that is the function of hydropower plants. Okay, so remember, here it is only mentioned that it converts the potential energy of falling water into electricity. But you need to remember, when can potential energy be converted into electricity? Potential energy will be converted into kinetic energy and then electricity. So remember these three steps for hydropower plants. First, potential energy, then it is converted into kinetic energy, and then later on electricity. So these three words you remember for hydropower plants. as we talked that to meet the needs of population, the waterfalls are not enough. That is why the dams are constructed. In the last century, a large number of dams were built all over the world. Now let us talk about hydel electricity. Hydel. This is the word for hydroelectricity. Hydro, from that HYD is taken, and electricity, from that EL is taken. So it is hydel. Okay, so when you see hydel electricity, it is hydroelectricity. Okay, now let us talk about dams. So, in order to produce hydel electricity, high rise dams are constructed on the river to obstruct the flow of water. Which means to obstruct the flow of water means to stop the flow of water. That means to store the water, and thereby will collect water in larger reservoir. What is reservoir? Which collect water. In general, reservoir means a place which collects things in store. Here, reservoir of water means we collect water in reservoir. What happens when the water level rises, and in this process the kinetic energy of flowing water gets transformed into potential energy? Where? In reservoir, right? When the water is stored, it will come into rest and it will convert it into the kinetic energy of flowing water will be converted into potential energy. As you can see in the figure, there is a reservoir on left hand side, so which will store the water. The water from the high level in the dam is carried through pipes. Now look at the figure with the reservoir. There is a dam. What will it do? The water from high level, from height, it will be carried through pipes. There will be some pipes. So with these pipes, the water will be carried out and it will be given to the turbine. So as you see in the figure, there is written control gate. From that penstock, from there the water will flow and it will be given to turbine. Now you already know what is turbine. Now here where it is at the bottom of the dam. You can see in the figure. Since the water in reservoir would be refilled each time it rains. We know that, right? That how many times it rains, that many times the water will be filled in reservoir and the water will be stored. That is why it is called renewable source of energy. Now you remember why is it called renewable source of energy? Because each time when it rains, each time this water will be stored in the reservoir. So we would not have to worry about hydroelectricity sources getting used up the way fossil fuels would get finished one day. Okay, so as it is renewable sources of energy, we do not have to worry, but we have to worry for fossil fuels. Now here there is a turbine, so this turbine will rotate, and when it rotates, the generator will convert the energy into electricity. So this way it will be done. Again, I say that the water is stored in the reservoir, which means when the water is coming, it has kinetic energy. But when it is stored in the reservoir, it gets potential energy. When it is allowed to flow, that means when it is coming out through the pipes, the potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. And when the turbine rotates, then the generator will convert this energy into electricity. So this are the functions of dams and the turbines and generator used in it. But constructions of big dams have certain problems associated with it. What are they? Let us talk each of them. The dams can be constructed only in a limited number of places, preferably in hilly areas. Why? Because on the land, everywhere we cannot get this hilly areas, right? And water is to be fall from the height. That is why hilly areas are preferable. So, these dams can be constructed only in a limited number of places, preferably hilly areas. Second, large areas of agricultural land and human habitation are to be sacrificed as they get submerged. To construct dams, a long area is required. So, it may happen that they have to give their fields, their lands, agriculture lands, even human habitation also gets affected. That is the second disadvantage. Then, large ecosystems are destroyed when submerged under the water in dams. When this ecosystem submerged in water with dams, they are destroyed. And sometimes, due to anaerobic conditions, what is anaerobic? We have studied in chapter 6. Anaerobic respiration we have studied, that is absence of oxygen. So when there is absence of oxygen, it gives rise to large amount of methane. Now what is methane? We have already learned that methane is a greenhouse gas. So again, that is a disadvantage. There were oppositions to the constructions of Tehri Dam on the river of Ganga and Sardar Sarovar project on the river Narmada are due to such problems. I'm sure you all have visited Sardar Sarovar Dam, right? So there were oppositions when this dam was constructed because of this number of disadvantages of constructing dams. So here we have completed the topic hydro power plants. I'm sure you have enjoyed it.